If you're hearing this, please send someone. Please come and find us. My name is Cassie Moreno. I'm part of the McMurdo Research Initiative, stationed out near the eastern ridge of Queen Maud Land in Antarctica. And I don't know how much time I have left. The stone, it's taking people, and I can't stop it. I don't even know if I'll still be here by the time this message reaches anyone. It's so cold. The kind of cold that burns every time you breathe, deep in your lungs like you're inhaling needles. And I've already lost track of time down here. Mark said he'd be back in an hour. I think it's been longer than that. It all started 2 days ago, when the first report came through. Another research team, one stationed closer to the ridge, had picked up seismic anomalies after the last storm system passed through. It was one of those massive polar storms that shifts the entire ice shelf, triggering minor quakes, breaking up old snow bridges, cracking glaciers like glass. When it cleared, they discovered something. A cave. The coordinates put it roughly 20 kilometers northeast of our base, and it wasn't on any glacial maps. No subsurface radar had ever picked it up, like it had been waiting under the ice this whole time. The team that found it was small, just 5 scientists. They weren't supposed to go inside. That's standard protocol. Any new glacial formation, especially one exposed by a storm, has to be scanned first. We run ice stability models, subsurface radar, core samples, the whole checklist. But they didn't wait. Maybe they were curious. Maybe they wanted to be the first to document something no one else had seen before. Maybe they thought they didn't have time to wait for red tape. Whatever it was, they breached the entrance. Their last transmission was only a partial sentence. No coordinates, no distress call, just static. Then silence. And out here, silence means one thing. Something went wrong. Our base went on alert. The communications techs ran diagnostics to check for equipment failure, but everything was clean. The signal just stopped. That's when Central Command called for a recon team. I volunteered immediately. Normally, I'm on the geological analytics team. I handle structural surveys, fault line modeling, and seismic pattern interpretation. But I've gone through rescue training before. I've led extractions. I know how to handle dangerous terrain. They didn't argue. There were 6 of us selected. 3 from McMurdo, including me, and 3 from a closer outpost with aerial access to the cave. They flew us out on a Snowhawk transport, smaller than a chopper, but designed for harsh environments and tight landings. We touched down near the ridge with sled packs, high-density thermal gear, drone scanners, survival rations, oxygen supplies, just enough to last 72 hours in isolation. The crawlspace dropped fast, steeper than expected. I had to lie flat on my stomach and inch forward, the ice scraping under my ribs with every movement. My breath echoed inside my hood, loud and sharp. No one spoke. The only sounds were our gear shifting, boots scraping, and the distant hiss of the wind behind us, already fading as the tunnel swallowed us whole. When I finally cleared the slope and pulled myself into the open, I had to pause just to take it in. The cave opened into a massive chamber, easily the size of a gymnasium. The light filtering in from the narrow tunnel behind us made everything glow. That pale, eerie blue you only get from old ice. The kind that's been compressed over centuries. The ceiling was high, lined with jagged ice formations that hung like spears. The floor was uneven but solid, covered in frost and fractured crystal sheets. Some of them crunched underfoot like breaking glass. I've done structural surveys in glacial tunnels before, but this was different. It wasn't just beautiful. It was unsettling. Too quiet, too still. The way sound carried in there made even a soft step feel loud. I stood near the entrance, waiting for the rest of the team to crawl through. One by one they dropped down. Mark, then Evelyn, then Ben, Luis, and finally Arjun. Everyone took a moment to scan the walls, running gloved fingers across the slick surfaces. "Holy shit," Mark muttered. He didn't say it loud, but it still echoed like he'd shouted. We started moving deeper. Evelyn took the lead, slowly sweeping her thermal scanner from side to side while whispering quiet readings into her recorder. Arjun walked beside her, holding up the tablet connected to his ground-penetrating radar. He was logging every shift in the terrain as we moved. After about 15 meters, the ambient light from the entrance disappeared completely. We flicked on our headlamps. The walls changed. The ice looked cleaner. Too clean. No debris, no trapped rock sediment. Just smooth, cold walls that curved down into the dark. I stayed near the back, trailing a hand along the ice. Some sections were what I expected, dense glacial layers under heavy compression. But other parts were strange. There were perfect spheres embedded in the ice. Not bubbles, not fractures, just smooth, hollow spheres, each one identical in size. Like something had carved them, not nature. "Cass," Arjun called over his shoulder. "Take a look at this." I stepped up beside him and looked at his tablet. The radar feed was mapping out the cave in real time. The tunnel we were in extended far deeper than it should have. There were offshoots, long, narrow branches veering in multiple directions. Even lower chambers, hollowed spaces buried under layers of ice that didn't match any geological data for this region. "This doesn't make sense," I said. "This entire section should be solid. There aren't any fault lines here. No melt cavities, nothing." I ran 3 calibrations. Arjun replied, "It's not interference. These chambers are real." We paused. Ben stepped forward, shining his flashlight ahead. The tunnel widened again, revealing a second chamber, larger than the last. And in the center of it, rising straight from floor to ceiling, was a thick ice column. Cracked, webbed with faint lines, and glowing. Not from our flashlights, not a reflection. This was internal. From deep within the column, a faint pulse of blue-white light shimmered outward, soft, steady, and alive. Evelyn lifted her scanner. "That's not surface bounce, that's internal light," she said quietly. I stepped forward slowly, shining my flashlight directly into the column. That's when I saw it. Buried in the ice, sealed beneath meters of compressed crystal, was something dark. Black, oval-shaped, and pulsing faintly with light, like it had its own power source. It was smaller than I expected, no bigger than a football, but the shape, it was wrong, too smooth, too perfect. Louise stepped up beside me. "What are you looking at?" I didn't answer right away, because whatever was inside that ice, it wasn't natural, and we all knew it. The rest of the team gathered around. We stared at it together, silent, uneasy. "It's not giving off any radiation," Evelyn said, checking her scanner again. "No measurable EM field, nothing." "But it's glowing," Mark said, "in 500-year-old ice." "Exactly," she replied, "which makes 0 sense." Ben tapped the outer edge of the column with his tool. It was solid, rock hard, no give at all, like the ice had reformed around the object after it was placed inside. "I'm setting up the micro-core drill," Arjun said, "just a small sample of the ice near the surface. Maybe we can pick up trace elements, metal, mineral, anything leaching out." "No full extraction," I said quickly. "Not yet. We don't even know what we're looking at." He nodded and knelt beside the base of the column, unpacking the drill from his gear. Mark stood farther back, adjusting his radio, trying to raise base camp. "Still nothing," he said after a minute. "Signal was clean earlier, but now it's just dead." "Could be the density," Louise said. "We're under a lot of ice." "Yeah," Mark replied, not sounding convinced. "Could be." The air felt heavier, not just cold, wrong, like it was pressing in on us. Louis checked our vitals. We each wore thin patches on our necks that monitored our heart rate, oxygen levels, and general stress response. "2 of you are showing elevated cortisol," he said, "Cassie and Mark." "I'm fine," I said, just focused. Mark didn't answer. He was still staring at the column. "Mark?" Evelyn asked. He blinked, looked away. "Yeah, sorry. I thought I saw movement inside." We all turned and stared, but the object was still, its glow steady, pulsing slow and soft. Arjun powered on the drill and started cutting. For a moment, everything seemed fine. Then the drill seized. The motor stalled, the lights on the control panel flickered out. Arjun checked the battery, still full, and then we heard it. A low humming sound, faint, deep, like feedback from an old radio. It vibrated through the floor, into our boots, into our bones. "Shut it off," I said quickly. "Back away." Luis grabbed Arjun by the jacket and pulled him clear. The hum stopped, but the object's glow, it was stronger now, faster, like it was blinking. Then Mark dropped his radio. We all turned. He was standing perfectly still, eyes fixed on the column, not moving, not blinking. "Mark," I said. He took a step forward, then another. "Mark, stop," Luis said. He didn't stop. Ben stepped in front of him, grabbed his shoulder. Mark shoved him, hard. Ben stumbled back, surprised. That was when I saw it. Mark's eyes. His pupils were dilated, his face pale, hands trembling, but not from the cold. He looked lost, like he wasn't in control anymore. Ben grabbed him again and yanked him backward. "Snap out of it." Mark blinked, shook his head. Looked around, confused, then down at the radio at his feet. "What happened?" he asked. His voice was quiet, unsteady. "You walked toward the column like you couldn't hear us," I said. Luis checked his vitals again, still elevated, but stable. It was like something had grabbed hold of him, and then let go. "We're done here," I said. "We're not here to study anything. We're here to find that missing team. That's the mission." Everyone nodded, except Evelyn. She kept staring at the ice, but even she didn't argue. We marked the chamber, set a glow beacon, and started moving deeper into the glacier. We didn't talk much after that. The deeper we went, the heavier the air felt. It wasn't just the altitude or the cold, it was something else. Like the ice itself was pressing in, watching, waiting. Every step forward sounded too loud, our boots crunching over frost-crusted stone. My flashlight beam bounced off the walls, catching on jagged patches of ice and shadow. No one said it, but we were all shaken. About 10 minutes down the next tunnel, Luis held up a hand and stopped walking. "There," he said, crouching. We all gathered around, our lights converging on the spot. Sticking halfway out from beneath a thin layer of ice was a torn glove. One of the old field models, tan outer shell, black palm grip, slightly outdated but still in use by some international teams. Ours had been upgraded 2 years ago. The fingertips were missing, torn off clean. Inside the glove, smudged against the fabric, was something dark. Luis scanned it with his tablet and looked up. Blood. No one spoke. It matched what we knew about the missing team's gear. And it hadn't been there long. We kept moving. The tunnel dropped again, sloping gently, and widened into another chamber. Smaller than the last, darker. The walls didn't glow. No strange shapes, just solid, ancient ice and the quiet that comes with it. But this room had signs, too. A snapped radio antenna, bent halfway and frosted over. And near the far end of the chamber, a trail of frozen droplets, irregular, scattered, curving around a narrow bend in the ice. I looked back instinctively to count the group. I always did head counts when we paused. And that's when I realized. "Where's Evelyn?" I asked. Everyone turned. She'd been right behind Arjun. Now she was gone. "Evelyn?" I called, raising my voice. No response. Then swept his flashlight across the room, checking the corners, the ceiling, every crack. But the chamber was open, no side tunnels, no places to hide, and no new footprints leading away from where she'd been. Did anyone see her go back? Nothing. She couldn't have just... I stopped. But she had. Just vanished. "Split up," I said. "Quick sweep. No more than 2 minutes. She might have fallen behind or taken the bend early." Ben and Luis headed left toward the higher ledge. Arjun took the sloped tunnel dipping to the right. Mark stayed with me. "I'm not leaving you alone," he said quietly. And I didn't argue. We moved slow, scanning the area again. My light flickered against patches of uneven frost, the way it does when cold starts seeping into the battery casing. I adjusted it, checked my pack, and kept moving. Then I saw it. Near the wall where the first column had been, there was a new distortion in the ice. Like a bubble. Not air, not debris, just a pocket. And inside that pocket, barely visible unless you looked at it straight on, was a shape. A human hand, curled, pressed against the ice, from the inside. I froze. I said, "Do you see that?" He stepped forward slowly, narrowed his eyes, his breath caught. "Is that?" I lifted my flashlight and widened the beam. It revealed more of the shape. A shoulder, part of a face, frozen mid-scream. Evelyn, not just her, more. Faces, arms, shapes blurred by cloudy layers of ice, all twisted, trapped mid-movement, like they'd been caught mid-breath. "The missing team," I whispered. Mark didn't say anything. He was pale again, his pupils wide, his jaw clenched. "They're not gone," he said. "They're still here." I stared at him. "What do you mean?" He pointed at the wall. "They didn't disappear. The ice is pulling them in." A crackle of static broke through the silence. The radio clipped to my pack buzzed, then snapped into life. It was Ben. "Luis is gone." My fingers went numb. I grabbed the mic. "What do you mean gone?" We were walking down the left slope. I turned to check the wall for structural lines, and when I turned back, he was gone. Mark closed his eyes. His breathing picked up. "It's happening faster." I turned to him. "You saw something?" He didn't answer, just kept staring at the ice, at Evelyn's frozen face, at the others. And the glow. God! The glow from the object was faster now. It was blinking. Like a pulse, like it was excited. "We need to go," I said. Mark nodded. We were halfway through turning back when Arjun's footsteps echoed behind us. He looked shaken, pale, his flashlight jittered in his hand. I couldn't find them, he said. Evelyn, Luis, they're gone. I didn't say anything, I just pointed to the wall. He stepped closer. His light caught the frozen figures, Evelyn's face, the curled hand, the trapped bodies sealed in smooth blue layers. Arjun staggered. No, he stepped forward, almost without thinking, and reached out. Arjun, don't! But his gloved fingers touched the ice. And then it happened. The pulse from the black object inside the column jumped, once, then again, fast and bright. Arjun screamed. My hand, it's stuck, it's pulling me in. Mark and I lunged forward, grabbing his shoulders, trying to yank him back. But it wasn't working. The ice wasn't just holding him, it was moving. It was swallowing him. His wrist disappeared, then his forearm, then his elbow. Mark didn't hesitate. He pulled his emergency axe from his belt and brought it down hard, aiming for the spot between Arjun and the object. The blade hit the ice and vanished. No crack, no impact sound, just gone. Swallowed. Arjun's scream echoed through the tunnel. His chest hit the wall. His boots scraped against the floor, kicking wildly. Let go, I yelled. We have to let go. Mark didn't, not right away. He gave one more desperate pull, and then we saw it. Arjun's back collapsed inward, like the ice had wrapped around his spine. He choked, eyes wide with pain, and then he stopped moving. Mark yanked me backward. We stumbled away, panting, eyes wide, watching as Arjun's body was absorbed into the wall, slowly, silently. His face, frozen in terror, was the last thing we saw, and then the ice smoothed over, perfectly sealed. Ben returned 20 minutes later. I heard him before I saw him, his boots crunching down the ice tunnel, flashlight beam jittering across the wall. He looked pale, breathing fast, but unharmed. I couldn't find Luis, he said. He was right next to me. I turned around for maybe 5 seconds and he was just gone. Mark and I exchanged a look. We know, I said quietly. He's not lost. He's in the ice. Ben blinked. What? I motioned for him to follow us. We brought him back to the column, the same one with the pulsing black object. Ben stepped forward and just stared. No reaction at first, just silence as he scanned the blurry human shapes sealed inside. The hands, the faces, the limbs, twisted mid-motion, locked behind frozen layers like they'd been pressed in from all sides. He raised his light. His jaw tightened. That's Evelyn, he said finally. I recognized the suit markings. That's Simmons. He was on the original team. Mark spoke next. We tried to pull Arjun out. He touched the ice, just for a second. It grabbed him. Ben looked at both of us, like he wanted to argue, like he didn't believe it, like his brain just couldn't catch up to what he was seeing. Mark stepped away, grabbed a half-empty water bottle from his pack, and without saying a word, threw it at the column. The bottle hit the ice and stuck. Then it started to sink. At first it was slow, then faster, vanished without a sound. Ben took a step back, eyes wide. You're saying this thing is alive? I don't know what it is, I said, but it reacts, and it doesn't want us here. We all stood in silence for a long moment. None of us even moved. Then we made a decision. One we didn't need to discuss. We weren't staying near the column, not another second. We turned around and retraced our steps through the tunnel, slowly, carefully, flashlight sweeping the walls. The pulse of the object faded behind us, softer with every step, until it was gone. When we reached the upper corridor again, Mark raised his radio and tried to call base. The line snapped open with a clean burst of static, followed by a voice. Status update. Team 2, come in. Do you copy? Mark practically lunged for the mic. This is Moreno. Team status compromised. We found the missing personnel, but they're not alive. They're encased. Something's in the ice, something unnatural, requesting immediate extraction. There was a pause, then static again, followed by a clipped response. Copy that. We're tracking a storm front moving in, winds shifted east, extraction window closed for now, estimated delay 12 hours. You'll need to bunker in until we can reapproach. 12 hours, I asked. We don't have 12 hours. Find stable ground. Stay clear of any hazardous zones. Keep the line open. We'll check in every hour. The radio clicked off. The three of us looked at each other. We didn't say what we were all thinking, but the weight of it hung there. We weren't getting out tonight, so we set up camp in the only place that felt remotely safe, just past the crawlspace entrance. Close enough to the surface that our gear could pick up signal. Far enough from the stone that we didn't feel it. We laid out thermal blankets, deployed the emergency tent for wind shielding, even though we were inside the glacier. The temperature was still dropping, Frost crusted over our packs. Our gloves froze stiff if we took them off for more than 30 seconds. Ben sat against the wall, arms crossed, flashlight in his lap. He didn't say a word, just stared at the floor, breathing slow and heavy. Mark and I took turns watching the tunnel and the radio. Every few minutes I'd glance back, make sure Ben was still there. At some point, I must have dozed off, just for a second. But when I opened my eyes and turned, he was gone. Ben, I stood up fast, my sleeping bag tangled around my boots as I kicked free, heart hammering. Mark jolted awake beside me. What is it? Ben's gone. We grabbed our gear and scrambled down the tunnel, retracing our steps, lights swinging wildly across the walls. And there he was, back in the lower chamber, the one with the column. His body was in the ice now, just inches beneath the surface. His face was twisted, mouth frozen mid-yell, eyes open wide, one hand pressed flat against the wall like he tried to push himself free. His other arm was outstretched behind him, still holding his flashlight, but the beam was buried now, flickering from inside. We just stood there. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. The ice had taken him too. Somewhere above us, deep in the glacier, we heard a sound. Low. Grinding. Then a deep rumble that shook the floor beneath our boots. Not an icequake, not a shift, something else. The cave entrance had just collapsed. Mark turned slowly to face me. That was the exit, he said. I nodded. My throat felt like ice. There was no point yelling, no one was coming, no one was getting in, and we weren't getting out. Mark zipped up his jacket, slung his gear over his shoulder. Checked the radio. Still live. I'm going to check the lower routes, he said. Some of those branches might loop back. There might be another exit. I'm coming with you. He shook his head. No. Stay here. Keep the line open. If I don't find anything in 20 minutes, I'll come back and we'll figure it out together. I didn't argue. Not this time. I just watched him go. His flashlight disappeared faster than I expected, swallowed by the tunnel bend. And then I waited. 20 minutes passed, then 30. I called for him on the radio. Again and again. All I got was static, and that's when I started recording, because I knew I wasn't going to make it out either. I don't remember how long I sat there. Could have been minutes, could have been an hour. The radio hissed softly in the background, a faint, steady stream of static, like it was trying to breathe through frost. My fingers were stiff, curled around the recorder, like it was the last thing tethering me to the surface. But Mark didn't come back, and I couldn't just sit there waiting to be next. So I grabbed my flashlight, zipped my jacket up as far as it would go, and started down the same tunnel he had taken. The slope was tighter than the others. I had to crouch, one hand against the ice for balance, careful not to lose my footing on the slick descent. The walls felt narrower, like they were pressing in. I could feel the cold bleeding through my gloves, biting my wrists. Every few steps, I paused to listen. Then I heard it. A voice. Faint, echoing. Mark, I shouted. The tunnel curved sharply twice and dipped again. My breath fogged against the inside of my mask, and the beam from my light bounced wildly as I jogged forward. Then I saw him. He was up ahead, fighting the wall, literally throwing himself backward, kicking, clawing, yelling. Cassie, he screamed. Don't come near. But I didn't listen. I dropped the flashlight, lunged forward, and grabbed him around the waist. His arms were already buried in the ice up to the elbows, his chest pressed flat against the frozen wall. I pulled with everything I had, but the ice pulled harder. And then I felt it. Cold, sharp, sudden. My fingers were stuck. I looked down and saw the ice curling around my wrists, moving up, fast. I yanked back, screamed, tried to twist free, but my gloves were sealed tight against the surface. The cold crept higher over my forearms, my elbows dragging me forward. Mark! I yelled. His eyes met mine. He was shaking his head, tears freezing on his lashes. Let go, he screamed. You have to let go. But it was too late. The wall was folding over his shoulders now, closing around his back. His legs kicked once, twice, and then disappeared. The ice swallowed him like it had all the others, and I felt it rising over my arms, then my chest, then my neck. I screamed again, uselessly, the sound echoing off the tunnel walls like a dying radio signal. My body was stiff, my legs frozen in place, my jaw clenched as the cold reached my chin, and then it reached my mouth. I looked up one last time, trying to find the light from my dropped flashlight. The beam stretched and twisted by the ice. Then I looked forward. and I saw the black stone. It was pulsing faster now, blindingly bright, flashing from inside the core of the ice like a heart gone mad. And then I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The ice was inside me, and everything went cold. Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news from Antarctica, where 2 scientific research teams have been confirmed missing after entering a newly exposed cave system near Queen Maud Land. According to official statements released earlier today, a joint search and recovery effort discovered the bodies of several team members deep within the glacier. All of them were found encased in solid ice. The victims were recovered in various positions, many appearing to be frozen mid-movement, some with their arms extended, others with expressions described by rescuers as visibly distressed. Despite speculation, authorities have not identified any structural collapse within the cave system. There were no signs of seismic activity at the time of the disappearances. The glacial environment, while dangerous, showed no anomalies that could explain the manner of death. Officials have declined to comment on the presence of any objects or materials found at the site. When asked whether any evidence was recovered from inside the cave, the response was, quote, "No further information will be shared at this time." Unofficial sources report that a personal field recorder was found near the last known position of Cassie Moreno, a member of the second team dispatched to locate the missing researchers. The contents of that recording have not been released to the public. The station responsible for overseeing the expedition has suspended all future activity in the region. Additionally, international advisories have been issued, warning other research teams to avoid entering unmapped glacial cavities throughout Queen Maud Land and surrounding territories. The scientific community has offered a range of theories, from oxygen deprivation to unknown atmospheric conditions, but none explain how trained researchers, equipped with full survival gear, became frozen beneath the ice in positions suggesting awareness and fear. Recovery teams will remain on site until further notice, but with worsening storms and increasingly unstable surface conditions, experts say additional investigation may not be possible. We will continue to follow this story as more details emerge. But for now, we remember those who ventured into the unknown and never came back.